What's up everyone, I'm Eldritch and today it's time for more map tactics. This time we're gonna look at the map Big Race. Big Race is a low tier map that is in rotation from tier 2 to tier 5. There are two versions of it, one in the Conquest game mode and another one in the Encounter game mode. Due to its small size, this map tends to be incredibly brawly and matches really don't last that long. As a Destroyer or Tenryu player, your first priority should be taking the Pocket. The Pocket is the bay area in the southwest of the map. It is this map's Destroyer playground. The Pocket provides excellent vantage points for you and your team, and it can be a deciding factor for the match. At the beginning of the game, rush the Pocket hard. That means use your speed boost. As you enter the Pocket, lay down torpedoes toward the enemy entrances. Brawl with and take out the enemy destroyers, and lay down smoke to try to establish a foothold in the Pocket. If the enemy team has Tenryus and your team doesn't, the fight will be a whole lot harder. The Pocket is the perfect environment for the Tenryu. Should your team lose the battle for the Pocket, immediately fall back and fire torpedoes behind you. Of course, make sure that you don't kill your own teammates with torpedoes, please. Afterwards, lay down torpedoes into the Pocket exits to keep the enemy team from taking advantage of this very important position of the map. Stay close to the Pocket to spot and protect your team from enemy destroyers who try to break out. If you lose the Pocket on Conquest, protect your base from destroyers trying to cap it. If you lose the Pocket on Encounter, attempt to cap the point to lure enemies out of the Pocket. If your team wins the Pocket fight, your chances for winning the game have just skyrocketed. Use island cover to ambush enemy cruisers and battleships, sneak through to where the enemies spawn to kill their carrier, or pursue and take out enemy destroyers. If you win the Pocket on Conquest, cap their base to try and force some of their cruisers to come back and defend. If you win the Pocket on Encounter, contest the cap zone, but don't focus too much on it. You've already gained the advantage, you don't have to put yourself out there that much. Cruisers on Big Race should focus on a support role. Either sail around the Pocket to provide supporting fires for your destroyers, while being safe from enemy torpedoes, support the battleships who push along the northeastern flank, or skulk around in the middle of the map to get shots wherever they're needed. This third tactic is best executed in any cruiser that is fast and maneuverable and has a long range on its guns, like the Murmansk for example. If you're following this strategy, make use of islands as much as possible, but avoid direct engagements with enemy battleships. If you're supporting your team's destroyers in the Pocket, make sure that you don't expose yourself to too much fire from the center of the map. And should your team lose the fight for the Pocket, break off and keep your distance to avoid the enemy torpedoes that are inevitably going to be in the water. Keep an eye on the minimap and fire on any destroyers being spotted leaving the Pocket. If you lose the Pocket on Encounter, contest the zone and fire on any spotted enemies trying to cap. If you lose the Pocket on Conquest, fall back and protect your own base from being capped. Should your team win the Pocket, it's a great vantage point for cruisers to fire out of because there's so much island cover and it's so easy to cover up with smoke as well. If it's Conquest, support your destroyers when they push for the enemy base. And on Encounter, stay in the Pocket and deny the enemy the cap. If you decide to support your team's battleships on the northeastern flank, make sure to sail behind them as shown in this diagram. This way you can support them with your anti-aircraft batteries, fire at whatever target they've chosen, and avoid enemy return fire at the same time. If enemy cruisers are supporting their battleships and are exposing themselves, target them first, because it opens the enemy battleships up for your carriers and takes a big chunk of DPS out of their team. As a battleship captain on Big Race, you should absolutely and completely avoid the Pocket. It always ends in death. Seriously, the Pocket is so small there is no reason for you to sail in there. You're just going to expose yourself to a lot of gunfire and torpedo fire that you just don't have any means to defend yourself against. And because the area is so small, maneuvering is so difficult in a battleship. Instead, sail along the northeastern flank route or through the middle of the map. Ask nicely in team chat for some cruiser support. You really do need it on this map. Be careful not to cut too closely around islands because on this map there might always be destroyers hiding somewhere. The map is so small that destroyers can get practically anywhere on the map relatively quickly, and you do not want to get ambushed on this map. Inevitably there will be a big fight between battleships on the northeastern part of the map. If you can coordinate a little bit with your battleships and a few cruisers, you are almost guaranteed to win this fight. Don't be afraid to ask your team in chat if they want to sail with you. Sail in a close formation with cruisers and other battleships to minimize the damage carrier torpedoes can do to you. If you sail close together, you focus your anti-aircraft damage much more, and it's harder for the carrier to attack one battleship from both sides. If you are being attacked by the carriers, break off and try to dodge as many of them as possible and then try to get back into the formation. I know this is asking a lot when you're playing with puppies, but just try talking to them in chat. I mean, after all, you're in a battleship, it's not like you have a lot to do. Whoever wins the pocket is largely irrelevant to you, but when that fight is over, prepare for incoming destroyers, because they will have fulfilled their primary target and will probably be on the hunt for some tasty battleship flesh. If you're playing Big Race on Encounter, largely ignore the cap, even if the enemy team is capping. Unless no one else in your team can respond, you shouldn't really be too worried about it. And if you're playing Big Race on Conquest, push toward the enemy base. That should always be your primary focus on this map. Big Race is going to be the first map aircraft carriers see, and it's a little bit of a bad introduction in my opinion. Because usually my advice would be to follow the main fleet so you're always close to your team. However, because this map is so small, that doesn't really work. If you follow your fleet, you're going to be spotted so very quickly and probably killed. So instead, find shelter behind one of the islands, and I would advise one that is closer to the northeast, because that's where you're going to conduct most of your hunting. Focus on using your fighters to protect friendly battleships and yourself should you get attacked with torpedo bombers. And then use your torpedo bombers to either go for the enemy battleships or kill the enemy carrier. Always keep an eye on the minimap for what the enemy planes are doing at all times, because you do not want to get caught out by the enemy carrier. If your team loses the fight for the pocket, you should immediately retreat to the far northeastern corner of the map, because at that point destroyers will be breaking through and they'll be looking for that juicy carrier with all his delicious hit points and his really disgustingly low speed. Other than that, ignore the pocket and keep helping your battleships to win the northeastern flank. If your team wins the pocket, it's a great idea to move into it for protection. Now you should also be a lot closer to their carrier, so it's a good idea to try and take him out very quickly. Gaining air superiority in this way will grant you almost free reign to just destroy all the battleships. Whether you play on Encounter or Conquest really doesn't matter, ignore the objectives in most cases. If you've lost all your planes or there's nothing else you can do, sure, try and cap the enemy base. But if you still have planes and there's fight left in you, ignore the objectives. All in all, Big Race is a very fun and fast-paced map, and if you take some of these tips to heart, you should get some really good results on this blast of a map. If you enjoyed this episode, keep an eye open for the next map tactics, which will be New Dawn. What if your experience has been on Big Race? Do you like the map? What are your thoughts on all the brawling that goes on in this map? Be it the pocket fight or the battleship on battleship crushing nonsense action in the northeast. Would you maybe like to see a bigger version of this map in higher tiers? Or do you think it's dog shit and it should remain at low tier where it belongs? Whatever it is, tell me in the comments. My next World of Warships video will be map tactics on New Dawn, as I'm still trying my hardest to get the next review lined up. But until then, I've been Eldritch Master Donkey, and I'll see you in another video.